Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, pretty simple one today. Let's go back 5 years ago to 2016 and find what young player was making the most noise at your club. Whether it was breaking into the first team or just causing excitement in the academy, let's find the breakout star of 2016 and just see where they are now 5 years later. And yes, before I get into this, I might as well look at how this channel was doing back in 2016.
Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Geez, English football's in some state at the minute. The FA appointing
managers every couple of years, the national team getting knocked out of tournaments to countries with populations the size of Sheffield, and a complete golden generation wasted.
Oh good Christ, what a mess. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Alex Iwobi, Everton. Okay, so right now, Arsenal fans are tossing themselves off into a goldfish bowl over the emergence of Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. Despite the two probably only having learned how to walk in 2006, but lads, while they're tipped to conquer the planet, let's not forget we've been here before. Go back 5 years ago and Alex Iwobi was a 19-year-old winger playing over 30 games for the first team. Good Christ, he was even starting a Champions League match at the Nou Camp that year. But then again, Arsene Wenger is also a man who started a former postman up front against Bayern Munich, so clearly he was taking crayons up his nose. If you told Iwobi that within 5 years he'd be coached by Carlo Ancelotti, oh, he'd probably be delighted. But tell him that he'd be a bit part player for Everton, stuck on the bench with Fabian Delph and Josh King, then yeah, he'd probably tear off chunks of his own armpit hair in disgust. Aston Villa, Andre Green, Sheffield Wednesday. Aston Villa might have spent the last 10 years mostly resembling a Brummie Clown circus, but let's be honest, that club have a good recent record of promoting their youth. Back in 2016, Andre Gray was supposed to be the next in line. A 16-year-old Solihull-born winger became the 5th youngest player to ever represent the club with his Premier League debut at Tottenham in March. Most 16-year-olds are too busy stealing cans of Karpaki from their dad. This fella, his voice had barely broken, and yet here he was sharing the pitch with Harry Kane and Dele Alli. But 5 years later, he's simply released, just spent 6 months sitting on the couch, and now is a bench warmer for a Sheffield Wednesday team second bottom of the championship. Come on Andre, what happens? Brighton, Sam Adekugbe Valerenga. Okay, Brighton were in the middle of a promotion assault back in 2016, so there was no time for betting too many youngsters into the first team. I'll go for Sam Adekugbe though. He's a 21-year-old Canadian left back who just arrived on loan from Vancouver Whitecaps, and hey, he played the full 90 minutes in a 4-0 EFL Cup win over Colchester, and then scored in a 4-2 win at Oxford United. Well, 5 years later, he's now out in Norway with Valerenga, with at least 85% of the Brighton fan population forgetting who or what he was. I'm convinced reminding them of his existence. It's a bit like reminding you about the chicken connoisseur. Definitely someone your brain hasn't thought about in a good half a decade of life. Burnley, TENDAYI, DARIKWA, Wigan Athletic. Okay, again, there were no real breakout stars for Burnley in 2016. The closest I can find is TENDAYI DARIKWA, a former Chesterfield and Hinckley United left back. To be fair, at 24, this man did play over 20 games for Sean Dyche's men in 2016, but now he turns 30 this year and recently just signed for Wigan in League One. Chelsea, Kennedy, Granada. Yeah, remember when Kennedy was supposed to be the next big Brazilian wonder kid? Chelsea's very own version of Neymar, snapped up from Fluminense in 2015? 2016 was a rehabilitation year for Chelsea, slowly recovering after that Jose Mourinho meltdown, stemming from when he treated the club's physios as if they just drowned his children in a bath. And Kennedy did well, mostly playing left wing under Gus Hiddink, making 9 appearances for the end of the season, even belting in a goal against Norwich in March. Oh yeah, and he played the entire 90 minutes as a left back against PSG in the Champions League. But 5 years later, this guy is just used a piece of spinach. After fading on loan at Watford, Newcastle and Getafe, he's currently 25 and out on loan at Granada. Sure, technically he's still a Chelsea employee, but there's more chance of the canteen dinner lady playing for this team again than Kennedy. Actually, now I feel a bit mean. I'm literally the only person on the planet Earth bullying him on his birthday today. Happy birthday, Kennedy, you wet sack of fudge. Crystal Palace, ZEKI Friars, Swindon Town. Yeah, remember the big fuss about Ezekiel Friars when Tottenham pinched him in 2013? Well, back in 2016, he was finally getting some football under his belt for Crystal Palace. But to be fair, whenever the left back played, he usually lost before being completely binned in favour of Patrick Van Aanholt. 5 years later, he's 28 and currently left back for Swindon Town in League One. And I think this guy is supposed to be the successor to Patrice Evra. Everton, Tom Davies, Everton. Yeah, 2016 was a breakout year for little Tom Davies, a robust 17-year-old midfielder on the books of Everton. Listen, this guy is still getting games at the club, and in some ways, that's a success. But let's be honest, this guy is just Leon Osman with a brain-dead fashion sense. He's a pretty average workhorse midfielder who retired Goodison Park with just one sad and lonely England cap to his name. Fulham, Ryan Sessegnon, Hoffenheim. It's fair to say Ryan Sessegnon's career is stalled, but that's what you get when you utterly explode at such a young age. Good Christ, 5 years ago, the kid was 15 years of age and training with the Fulham first team. It was the 16-17 season where he stamped his mark at the age of 16, becoming the first professional footballer in English leagues to have been born in the 2000s and score a goal. You might say he was a pioneer for the millennial generation, and when he scored against Cardiff, it made him the championship's youngest ever goal scorer. The man would soon be linked with Barcelona and given an outside shot at being stuffed in the England World Cup squad. So even if he didn't make that squad, you would assume he was a shoo-in for Euro 2020, right? Well, the Euros have since been delayed a year, and he still has about as much chance of making that squad as Kieran Gibbs. Well, he's now 20, utterly ignored at Tottenham and out on loan at Hoffenheim, where, to be fair, he's done pretty well. Leeds, LEWIE, COYLE, Hull City. Yeah, versatile fullback LEWIE COYLE made his Leeds breakthrough in 2016, but lads, he was actually in the national press back in 2005, involved in an alleged tapping up scandal with Chelsea as a 10-year-old. Christ above, trying to tap up a 10-year-old child sounds like my parish priest. It was also claimed Barcelona were making an offer for the kid at the time, so clearly he had high expectations rammed down his throat. To be fair, he was breaking the least. He was a 20-year-old left back in 2016 and looked like one for the future then. Yeah, no, he's currently 25 and the right back for Hull City. And I think Chelsea thought he was going to be the next Ashley Cole. Leicester, Ben Chilwell, Chelsea. 2016 must have been a ridiculously exciting year for Ben Chilwell. He was a 19-year-old left back and slowly breaking into a Leicester City team who just won the league title. Considering he joined the club's academy when they were stuck in League One, never in a million years did he think he'd be making his debut for the club in a title-winning season. Anyway, 5 years later and he's a £50 million left back for Chelsea. Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Liverpool. Listen, Liverpool have seen a bunch of academy prospects fail to live up to the hype in recent years. Good Christ, Ben Woodward was supposed to be the next Stevie G. Clearly, Trent Alexander-Arnold was worth the hype though. 5 years ago, he was 17, making his debut against Tottenham in the EFL Cup, and was then awarded man of the match in the next round against Leeds, where he also set up Divock Origi for the breakthrough goal. Back then, he'd have settled for being the next Nathaniel Klein. No, 5 years later, and he's a Liverpool legend, having already won every possible trophy available to him. He's essentially completed football at 22. Man City, Kelechi, IHEANACHO, Leicester. One of the biggest disappointments on the list. This guy was supposed to be the original Gabriel Jesus. He was an 18-year-old hotshot striker who scored against Tottenham, bagged 2 braces against Stoke and Southampton, got another one against Swansea, and then brushed a bunch of Gladbach and Celtic, then another against Bournemouth, a goal against Southampton, and then, in the great words of DJ Khaled, another one against Hull City. That was a teenager scoring 11 goals for Man City in 2016, so being told that in 5 years he'd be 24 and currently stuck on 0 goals for the season with Leicester, good Christ, it'd be like telling Gabriel Jesus the same thing in 2017, just would not make an iota of sense. Man United, Timothy FOSU-MENSAH, Bayer Leverkusen. Yeah, clearly Bayer Leverkusen are turning into a Premier League reject dumping ground. Timothy FOSU-MENSAH was an 18-year-old breakthrough centre back in 2016, making his debut at left back in the famous 3-2 win over Arsenal, where teenage Marcus Rashford chewed their title hopes into wet Cheerios. FOSU-MENSAH was held up as the next great Manchester United defender back in 2016. Yeah, 5 years later, and this former Ajax wonder kid has now been sold to Bayer Leverkusen, the same place with the transfer policy is sniffing on the Old Trafford bench. If he lived up to his potential, there'd have been no need for chucking 80 million quid at Harry Maguire. Newcastle, Yassin Ben Almani, the couch. Okay, to be fair, Yassin Ben Almani didn't play any games for Newcastle in 2016, but it doesn't matter. The other hype train running through the club. This was an exciting 20-year-old winger who had the fans drooling out of their mouth. This was a former futsal star who'd risen to fame on YouTube. He acted as a body double for the likes of Neymar and Ronaldo in adverts, was dubbed the non-league Riyad Mahrez, and during a trial with Chelsea, he trained with the first team under Gus Hiddink, and even scored in his debut for the reserve team. So when Newcastle snapped him up in 2016, oh lads, Geordies assumed they had the next Hatem Ben Arfa on their books, just spending their Wednesday nights drooling over his YouTube clips. Sadly, it's 5 years later and the man was released by Scunthorpe last summer. He's currently 25 and without a job. I hope he's not reduced to rummaging under his fridge for leftover sandwiches. Sheffield United, David Brooks, Bournemouth. Yeah, safe to say David Brooks did live up to the hype. A Manchester City reject who was breaking into the Sheffield United first team back in 2016. Rise up, he was even being called up by Wales. Anyway, 5 years later he's 23 and currently trying to get back to the Premier League with Bournemouth. Oh yeah, and recently scored the winner against Ireland, managing to outjump our entire defence and scored a header despite looking like a body double for an Oompa Loompa. Southampton, Sam McQueen, Southampton. Lads, Sam McQueen has been at Southampton since 2003. That is an utterly ridiculous length of time. 5 years ago he was making his Premier League debut in a 3-1 win over Burnley and even won a penalty. 4 days later this teenage defender was making his European debut against Inter Milan. The last time a British left back played against Inter Milan, he reduced the right back to a quivering leaf of a man. Then McQueen was starting away at Manchester City before being offered a new long-term deal before Christmas. The fact he's currently 26 and still at the club makes no sense considering he hasn't played for them since 2017, but to be fair, the poor guy has been utterly obliterated by injuries. Tottenham, Josh Onoma, Fulham. Yeah, 5 years ago, Josh Onoma was a teenage midfielder just trying to squeak his way into reach of Pochettino's plans, making a bunch of substitute appearances in 2016. He also played the full 90 minutes against the likes of Monaco and Borussia Dortmund in the Europa League. Now though, he's a 23-year-old midfielder, joined Fulham in the deal that took Sassy United their way, and yeah, he's just another bench warmer soaking up wages on Scott Parker's bench. West Brom, Jonathan LEKO, Birmingham City. Yeah, 5 years ago West Brom were wondering what on earth to do with the disgruntled lump of donuts that was Saido Berahino, but Jonathan LEKO looked like his reincarnation, the guy about to replace him. Good Christ, he was making his Premier League debut for the club against Sunderland at 16 years of age, and he even grabbed an assist against Liverpool after going on a solo run. He received the club's Young Player of the Season award, signed a fat new contract, but yeah, 5 years later, he's a Birmingham City player and hasn't scored a single goal all season. West Ham, Declan Rice, West Ham. Every every match Declan Rice plays, the more I actively want to shove my fist down my throat. So at the risk of exploding my brain any further on this Sunday morning, let's just get this one over with quick. Yes, Rice broke through in 2016. Yes, he's still there. No, he's not bastard Irish anymore. Wolves Conor Ronan Grasshopper. Now here is a young Irish midfielder. Anyway, 5 years ago, Conor Ronan was the next big thing at Wolves, even breaking into the first team towards the end of 2016 under Paul Lambert. Just a shame for him, the club were about to enter the Portuguese Revolution. How could a young lad from Rochdale realistically expect to compete with the likes of Ruben Neves? He's since been loaned out to Slovakia, Blackpool, and currently on loan at Grasshopper in Switzerland. What a bizarre CV. Anyway, that's the end of the last episode. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.